everybody, it's nice to see you all today. I hope you're having a really great time. So my name is Debbie Ison. I class myself as a hypnotherapist, but I'm actually qualified in 13 different therapies. And I'm also a trainer of hypnotherapists, past life regression therapists, and Reiki practitioners. And when I was thinking, what do I want to talk about today, I thought, do you know what? I'll do a live therapy demonstration. So this is really exciting for me because I don't know what we're doing today. So it's going to be a surprise for me just as much as it is for everybody else. So what normally happens is when I'm working with somebody, I do a consultation. And that consultation, people normally spend about an hour with me, and I will find out a lot of detail as to what we're working on. So what the person does want, what they don't want, where we're moving forwards to, what emotions impact them. There's lots of information that I gather. Obviously, I haven't got time to do that today because I need to be in here and out. So I'm going to have to get the minimal information for me to be able to work, but it isn't as much as I would normally get. So I've got Matthew here, and I know Matthew from my other role. At the moment, I'm studying for a PhD in psychology at Northampton, and Matthew is actually one of the lecturers. He's a doctor in psychology, and we've been having some fantastic conversations because he knows a lot of theoretical information, but not so much the first-hand experience. And so I thought, do you know what? Do you fancy coming and being a volunteer for me today? And I will do some therapy on you. So you don't really know what to expect, do you?
No.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just asking Matthew a few questions as to what we're going to be working on today. And then I'm going to get to work therapeutically. So as I say, there's lots of different tools and techniques that I'm qualified in. So I'm going to choose the most appropriate based on the time constraints that we've got in this room, and also what I think is going to be most beneficial for Matthew therapeutically. So what do you want me to work on with you today?
Weight loss.
Weight loss. Okay. So with your weight loss, tell me a little bit more about that, please.
So basically, I got many bad habits, from smoking to eating horrible food to eating chocolate. But it's the weight that I've determined is the most detrimental to my health. I did some statistical modelling on myself, and I determined that it's the weight that's going to be the biggest predictor of me having a heart attack. So I want to lose that weight.
Excellent. So you can tell we've got a scientist here. So what do you want instead?
I want to replace the cravings of sugar, pastries, and/or processed food with I want to say, what they call it in psychology is a bit of aversion therapy, in which they train the subject to be completely against the object of desire. So I don't want a permanent aversion to those things, obviously.
Okay.
But a somewhat temporary aversion. So I can
temporary aversion to them. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Thank you. And how much are you wanting to lose in terms of weight?
Probably about 3 to 4 stone, respectively.
Okay. And over what period of time are you wanting to lose that?
6 to 18 months.
Okay. So that's realistic. So we're not actually saying I want to lose it all in a week, which wouldn't be healthy for your body.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you've reached that desired outcome, how are you going to feel?
Amazing, I presume.
Excellent.
Certainly better in myself, I suppose, a better state of mind, as well as healthier in myself, and I can wear my shirts again without looking fat.
Excellent. So, when you're thinking about that future, how do you view yourself?
Probably stressed at work.
Stressed at work, okay. Yeah. So that's really important. So we know there's perhaps other issues going on here, so it's not just a habit, there might be emotional factors involved.
The problem is that my job is very much, you can get stressed over almost anything, marking deadlines, publications, etc. And because of the way the campus is set up, it's not a bastion of healthy food, rather it's a cradle of filth with unprocessed food.
So we've got lots of processed food. So do you have any opportunities in your day-to-day life to eat healthily?
They don't serve healthy food there, hence why what I'm doing, or starting to do, is pack my own foods of good meat and good vegetables, basically.
Okay, so you're already starting to think about the diet and the nutrition that you're having. Okay. And is there anything else you can tell me that might help?
I'm a very, very sceptical person.
Very sceptical. So you're very sceptical of what I might be doing here then?
No, I'm just sceptical. There's no such thing as truth. No, that's an oxymoron. There's probably no such thing as truth. So I'm very much sceptical of everything, even myself.
Okay. And so obviously just going back to the stress, are there any particular emotions that tend to make you want to eat more?
Anger.
Anger. Okay. That's interesting.
And incompetency of not myself, of others.
Okay. Brilliant. Right. So that's going to give me lots to work on. So in reality, if I heard all of that, I would ask a lot more questions, a lot more detail. And I might think here we maybe have got more than one session of work to do because there are certain emotions to perhaps work through, certain belief systems, as well as sort of diets and habits. But we shall do as much as we can in the time that we've got.
Thank you.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you into hypnosis. Mm-hmm. So for anybody who doesn't know what hypnosis is, it's a state where we're less concerned about our external surroundings and we've gone more into our own internal thought processes. We do it day to day anyway, when we're daydreaming, when we go on autopilot. But the reason we take someone into hypnosis is because it allows access to what's going on underneath, those programs that are running that perhaps don't serve us any longer. So are you okay for me to take you into hypnosis?
Of course.
Okay. So what we're going to do is take you into hypnosis and then we'll go from there and see where your mind takes us. And I think this might be interesting for me because I think your mind might take us on a few tangents. So what I'm going to ask you to do for me is I'm going to ask you to start counting for me backwards, out loud, from 200 down to 1.
Okay.
On every odd number, I want you to close your eyes, and every even number, you're going to open them.
So odd, open, even, close.
That's odd. What did I say? That's absolutely fine.
Okay.
So what's going to happen after a while is your eyes become heavy, but they will remain closed, and at some point those numbers are going to drift from your mind. Okay. It may happen when you reach the number 1, or it may happen at any other number that you're choosing. If you forget where you are, just go back to the last number that you can remember. I'm going to talk and count, but I'm going to say different things to you. Okay. Okay, so when you're ready.
199, 198,
2,
197,
3,
196,
4,
195,
5,
194, 193, 192, 191, 190, 189.
And as you're listening to the sound of my voice, you find yourself relaxing more and more with every number that you count. Relaxing more with every movement of your eyes or body and every breath you take. And after a while, you will become so completely relaxed that the numbers drift from your mind and your eyes remain closed. That's right, resting, relaxing, drifting, dreaming, going down, down now into a wonderful state of relaxation. And as you continue to listen to my voice, you continue to relax. And as you continue to relax, you are still able to think thoughts that can be thought, but you do not need to think them. And as you listen to the sound of my voice, you may like to imagine your thoughts floating away as though they are tied to a helium-filled balloon that carries them effortlessly into the distance now, knowing that you are safe and secure here, safe to relax completely. And no matter how deeply you relax, my voice will go with you. And now, as I count down from 5 to 1, you will become 10 times more relaxed with every number that I count. 5, 10 times more relaxed, feeling calm, safe and relaxed. 4, 20 times more relaxed, breathing easily and naturally now, relaxing more with every breath that you take, knowing you're free to move your body at any time. 3, 30 times more relaxed. No outside noises will disturb you now. They will only help you to feel even calmer and even more relaxed as you drift deeper and deeper now. 2, becoming calmer and calmer as you listen to the sound of my voice becoming dominant within your unconscious mind. And 1, at this level of relaxation, Your unconscious mind hears and responds to every suggestion that I make. And no matter how deeply relaxed you are, you continue to respond to my voice on an unconscious level. So as you just rest and relax now, I would like you to bring to mind a scale with the numbers from 1 to 100. 1 represents the most relaxed you could possibly be. 100 represents being fully alert and wide awake. Using a nice, clear voice for me now, what number of relaxation are you currently on?
2.
Brilliant. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave you in that relaxed state for a moment just whilst I address the audience, and then we're going to work together. So as I've taken him into hypnosis, there are loads of different ways to take somebody into hypnosis. For some people, it might be a gradual relaxation or a beautiful journey within their mind. Some people, they might need something very rapid to take them in. And then for other people, particularly people who are very analytical or that have a lot of different thoughts, there might need to be some sort of confusion-based techniques where you're getting the mind to do lots of different things all at the same time. And that's what I chose to employ in this circumstance. So I'm coming back to you now, Matthew. So what we're going to do now, Matthew, is we're going to work with your mind, your absolutely incredible mind, to make the changes that you need. You see, your mind is amazing. It's responsible for so many roles, so many functions, and so many responsibilities. And every part of your mind has been set up to help you in one way or another. Now, sometimes the different parts of your mind all work harmoniously together, whereas at other times they may be in conflict. We hear this in people's day-to-day language when they say things like, a part of me wants to go to the gym, but another part of me wants to go home and watch the television. Now, sometimes these little discrepancies can be small and insignificant, whereas at other times they can prevent us achieving the goals that we desire. However, every part of your mind is doing the very best that it can with the roles, functions, and skills it has been given. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to in turn call forwards different parts of your mind to communicate with me. I simply ask that the other parts of your mind listen, knowing that any part that wishes to communicate will get its turn. So as you just rest and relax now, the first part of your mind that I would like to call forwards is the part of you that is wanting to lose weight. So as you just rest and relax now, I would like this part of you to come forwards. And as it comes forwards, you may see a shape, a face, or a colour. Perhaps hear a voice or sound, or maybe just become aware of it moving forwards to communicate with me now. So using a nice, clear voice for me now, am I able to speak to the part of you that wants to lose weight?
Yes.
Thank you. So speaking to this part of you, what is it that you want?
I want to lose weight for my health.
Okay. And what is it you need?
I need to stop craving sugar and processed food.
Okay. And what's stopping you from achieving that?
Anger with work colleagues and also having to deal with their incompetency.
Okay. So thank you for this part for talking to me. I'm going to come back and speak to you shortly. What I'm now going to do is I'm now going to call forwards another part of your mind. So the next part of your mind that I would like to call forwards is the part of your mind that's responsible for the anger. So as you just rest and relax now, I'd like that part of you to come forwards to communicate with me. And as it comes forwards, you may see a shape, face, or colour, perhaps hear a voice or sound, or maybe just become aware of it moving forwards to communicate with me now. So using a nice, clear voice for me now, am I able to speak to the part of you that's responsible for anger?
Yes.
Thank you. So speaking to this part, what is it that you want?
To be less angry, to be more in control.
Okay. And what is it you need?
Work colleagues to do their job properly.
Okay. And that other part identified that the eating the sugary and processed foods is linked to this anger. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, so how does eating those foods benefit you?
Sort of gives me a sugar boost.
Okay.
It tapers the anger down. It's a craving.
Okay. So just speaking to this part, I'm really interested in that, and I can see you there as a really important role. You're there to help give more control in some ways, that you're giving a strategy to manage what's going on. However, when you think about the processes that go on in the body with sugar, what happens is when we put sugar and processed foods in the body, it messes with the hormones. It will often lead to spikes in cortisol, and then we can end up actually having more stress and more irritation. So do you understand that?
Yes, it's mediated by the pituitary adrenal gland.
Excellent. So because you know this, you also know then that there's a perhaps even more beneficial way to deal with it. Would you agree?
Yes.
So would you be willing to work with me now so that we can find a more effective way for you to deal with those incompetencies and the stress that goes on instead of needing to eat the foods?
Yes.
Excellent. So what I'm just going to ask you to do now is I'm just going to ask your mind to go all the way back to the energetic origin of where this pattern first began, this behaviour of eating those foods to help you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count 1 to 5 to connect you in, and then 5 to 1 to take you all the way back to where that idea of the sugar boosts comes from. So just going back there now, 1, 2, 3 connecting in, 4 becoming stronger, and 5 going all the way back there now. 5 becoming clearer and clearer, 4 seeing, hearing, feeling, 3, 2 and 1 going all the way back there now, back to where that first began. Just paying attention now to anything you see, anything you hear, anything you feel, think or know. Paying attention to anything going on around you now. And using a nice clear voice for me now, what do you become aware of?
3-year-old me with a maths book.
Okay.
Looking around the room in dungarees and a white t-shirt.
Okay. And what are you doing with that maths book at 3 years old?
Rearranging equations.
Okay. And how does it make you feel as you're rearranging those equations at 3 years old?
Happy.
Okay. So as you just focus on this memory where you feel happy, where you're rearranging those equations at 3 years old, I want your mind to bring forward now, how is this connected to that sugar boost you get?
See, when I got upset that I couldn't figure one out, I started crying. I was given chocolate by my grandmother.
Okay, so you were given chocolate by your grandmother at 3 years old when you couldn't work out one of those equations. So what I would like you to do now, you're doing really well, as your adult self, I want you now to go to that 3-year-old self. I want you to bring him to mind. And instead of him having that sugar, what I want you to do is I want you to explain to him that he's absolutely brilliant. I want you to explain to him that he's very advanced for his age, and that it's also okay that we don't always know everything, because actually through that exploration, sometimes by making mistakes, we make wonderful discoveries. I want you to explain to him that he's got all the capabilities within him to achieve anything he puts his mind to. And I want you to give him all the love, all the comfort, all the support that he needs, telling him anything he needs to know. So I'm just going to allow you to do that within your mind now. And I'd like you just to let me know when that's done by saying okay.
Okay.
Okay, and how's he responded?
He nods.
He nods. Okay, so now that you've become aware of where this pattern first began, in terms of the chocolate, as your adult self, do you feel that's beneficial any longer?
No.
Okay, so what could we change about this memory or experience that perhaps is a more positive way of you processing that information, something that's more beneficial to help you going forwards?
Not getting frustrated at problem solving or lack of problem solving.
Okay, and what would that give you if you no longer got frustrated?
No more getting quick to anger, no more rising cortisol levels, no more craving of dopamine boosting chocolate.
Excellent, because actually you can get all those boosts in a positive way by having that enjoyment and that excitement of discovery now, because you're very capable of that. And actually, as you recognise, when we reduce the anger and bring in those more positive emotions, it allows for clarity of thought. Would you agree?
Agreed.
Excellent. So what I want you to do now is I want you to update that process. And as you update that process, I want it sent all the way through the timeline of your life. So that's updated now for everything that's already happened in your life and everything going into the future. So you've got those new positive strategies to put into place. And if you just let me know when that's done by saying okay.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. So just speaking to you now, is there anything else we need to do for that 3-year-old version of you?
No.
Okay. So now I'd like to just speak to that part again that's responsible for that angry response, that anger. So now that we've made these realizations and we've put these changes into place, are you willing now to release and let go of that anger and instead bring in those positive strategies that you've recognized and talked about?
Yes.
Excellent. And what would you need to help you achieve this?
Just being more cool-headed.
And how would being more cool-headed benefit you?
Letting things go and living by my typical motto of it is what it is.
Excellent. And how is that going to improve all aspects of your life if you can live by that motto of it is what it is and you can let those things go?
Not getting angry with people.
Mm-hmm.
Not expecting them to get deadlines done within 3 days before the deadline. And not expecting them to reply to emails at 3 or 2 in the morning.
Excellent. That sounds really positive. So actually this is far-reaching. So not only are you going to improve your relationship with food going forwards, it's also going to improve your relationships with your colleagues and other people in your life, as well as your relationship with yourself. Would you agree?
Agreed.
Wonderful. So just speaking to this part now, would you now be willing just to release all that anger, let it go out of your system, breathe it out, and instead replace it with all those positive feelings? And just let me know when you've done that.
Hold on.
Excellent. And just speaking to this part now, are you willing to work with the other parts of the mind now to put these positive changes into place?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time. So as you just rest and relax now, the next part of your mind that I would like to speak to is the part of the mind that's wanting to keep the weight. So as you just rest and relax now, I would like that part of you to come forwards to communicate with me now. And as it comes forwards, you may see a shape, face or colour, perhaps hear a voice or sound, or maybe just become aware of it moving forwards to communicate with me now. So using a nice, clear voice for me now, am I able to speak to that part?
Yes.
Thank you. So speaking to the part that wants to keep the weight, what is it that you want?
To be more in control.
To be more in control. And what is it you need?
Weight is an element of control.
And how is weight an element of control?
Because it's something that I've got control over.
Okay. So speaking to this part of the mind, it's excellent that you want control, and control can be really useful. However, we need to do it in the most effective way. If perhaps we're controlling weight, we could be doing that in an even more effective way. You see, the problem is, if you're holding on to excess weight, over time, what that's going to do is it's going to have an impact on your health and well-being. It's going to slow you down. It's going to cause a decline in your cognitive function. It's going to make you feel unhealthy. It may cause illnesses, aches and pains, which are then all going to cause you to lose control in the long run, because you'll no longer have control in the same way of what's going on in your body and mind. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So actually, if you want control, we need to find even more effective ways for you to have that. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing I suggest we put into place is that if you still want to be in control of the weight, that is something you can control at all times, even if other things in your life are out of control. Would you agree?
Yes.
But perhaps we alter it so that you're in control now of maintaining a healthy weight.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we need to do for that is we need to ensure that there's a balanced diet put into place. So I want you just to bring to mind for your body, what would be an ideal balanced diet?
Good protein, meat and veg.
Excellent. So that's what your body's wanting, good protein, meat and veg. So I want you to recognise now that some of those foods you used to eat, the sugars, the processed foods, are actually no good for your body. And the body actually needs healthy nutrition to work effectively. Just in the same way as if you were taking your car to the garage and you filled it up with petrol instead of diesel, it wouldn't work very well. It would cause damage and it would prevent it working. It's the same with the body. So what you're doing by putting the wrong nutrition in is you're causing damage and preventing your mind and body working properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to update the program now so that the foods you choose to eat and want to eat are those healthy, nutritious foods that are going to benefit you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what I want you to do now is I want you to just think for a moment about those sugary foods and processed foods. Can you bring them to mind?
Yeah.
And as you bring them to mind, how does it make you feel?
Almost shying away.
So that shying away, if you shied away from those foods, how is it going to benefit you?
It's going to get me healthy and to lose weight.
Excellent. So that's shying away from those unhealthy foods. What I want you to do is I want you to feel that emotion and I want you to make it stronger and stronger and stronger so that actually you no longer feel drawn to them. It's almost as if you're repulsed by them. They put you off, and every time you do consume them, it makes you feel unhealthy. You recognise those differences within your body. And as that happens, it makes you enjoy those healthy foods more and more, being drawn to them in a healthy, balanced diet, eating in moderation, only eating when you're physically hungry and stopping as soon as you begin to feel physically full. So just notice those changes being put into place now and just let me know when that's done by saying okay.
Okay.
Okay. So when you think about those foods now, what is it like?
Revulsion.
Revulsion. Excellent. So now instead what I want you to do is I want you to think about those healthy food choices. And I want you to imagine now you're just drifting into the future and you've got a completely new positive relationship with food. You notice that you only eat when you feel physically hungry and stop as soon as you begin to feel physically full. The only reason to eat food is to give your body the right nutrition and energy for your body's needs in a healthy, balanced way. So when it gets to each mealtime, you ask yourself, am I physically hungry? Eating if and only when you feel physically hungry, stopping as soon as you begin to feel full. Recognizing the difference between hunger and thirst and taking the time to really enjoy your food. You see, the eating experience is something that's meant to be savoured and enjoyed. Often in our day-to-day lifestyles, we're so busy we eat quickly and we fail to really appreciate the experience. However, you are learning a new way to eat in an even better way now. So from now on, you're going to take your time to chew your food, really noticing the flavours, really enjoying the experience. And that will allow you to enjoy that eating experience even more, but also it will give time for your digestive system and your mind to communicate with each other so that you begin to recognise as soon as you start to feel physically hungry, stopping eating and allowing yourself to rest. From now on, you find that you drink plenty of water, just the right amount for your body's needs, knowing that this will help to increase your metabolism, knowing that it will help to flush out toxins from your system. And as you eat this healthy, balanced diet now, you feel healthier and healthier each and every day. And you know that nothing tastes as good as that wonderful feeling of reaching your ideal weight, shape and size, feeling healthy, your mind functioning even more effectively, living your life to the fullest. So as you just rest and relax now, I'd like your mind just to drift into the future. And I would like you to see yourself being your ideal weight, shape and size. Listen to how easy it is for you to breathe, how positive and happy you sound. Notice how calm, relaxed and in control you feel in all aspects of your life. See it, hear it, feel it, imagine that future in exactly the way you want it to be. I'm just going to be quiet whilst you do that now. Just take as long as you need, and then just let me know when you're ready to continue by saying okay.
Okay.
Excellent. And what was that future like?
It's healthy. Working in a job that I enjoy. Still smoking.
Okay.
It's healthy.
Excellent. So as you just notice that future now, it's your choice as to when you choose to act upon this future. Now, you may choose to put it into place from the very moment you come out of hypnosis, or you may choose to put it into place right at this very moment. The choice is entirely yours. So as you just rest and relax now, once again, speaking to that part of your mind that used to want to keep the weight. You said you wanted to be more in control. So one way we've given you extra control is allowing you to have a healthy relationship with food. What I would also like to highlight to you is actually you can always be in control. Because although we can't necessarily alter the situations we're in or how the people interact around us, what we've always got control over is how we choose to think, feel and react in situations. So because you know and understand this now, you can choose to think, feel and react in a more positive way. And I suggest that more positive way is being calm, being measured, to allow your mind to have that clarity, to allow you to find solutions, so it benefits you in all ways. So just speaking to this part of the mind, how do you feel about what I've suggested?
Positive trajectory.
Excellent. So now we've got that positive trajectory. Speaking to this part of the mind that used to be responsible for the weight, would you now be willing to take on a new role of finding control in really healthy and beneficial ways?
Yes.
Excellent. And are you willing now to work with the other parts of the mind to achieve this?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you ever so much for your time. So as you just rest and relax now, going back to that first part of the mind that we spoke to today, the part of the mind that wanted to lose weight. Am I able to speak to this part again, please?
Yes.
Excellent. So speaking to this part, are you happy with what's been decided upon?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you for your time. And are you willing to work with the other parts to achieve this now?
Yes.
Wonderful. So now I'm just speaking to all parts of the mind. Speaking to all parts of the mind, what we're going to do is we're going to be bringing this session to a close shortly. So if any other parts of the mind want or need to come forwards, what I'm going to ask you to do is just let me know, and then I will continue to work with Matthew at a later date so that you can have your voice and your say. So just speaking to the entire mind now, are there any other parts that are going to need to come forwards for us to address this?
Nervous, synergic harmony.
Excellent. So speaking to all parts of the mind now, are all parts of the mind in agreement with what we've decided upon today?
Yes, they all accord.
Excellent. So all parts of the mind now come together, merging and blending as one incredible team. Each part of the mind with its own roles, own functions and own responsibilities, but all parts coming together now to allow you to have a positive, healthy relationship with food, to allow you to feel relaxed and in control, to allow you to become healthy, for your body to reach its perfect weight, shape and size, enjoying your entire life completely, living your life to the fullest. So once again, I'd like your mind just to drift into the future. See, hear, feel and sense. Notice yourself achieving that weight loss goal, that permanent weight loss reduction, being your ideal weight, shape and size that's healthy for your body's needs, living your life to the fullest. And I should just be quiet once again whilst you do that, and just let me know when it's done by saying okay.
Okay.
Well done. And what was that like?
It was good.
Excellent. So in a few moments' time now, I'm going to count upwards from 1 to 5. And with each number you hear, you'll become more alert and more aware. And then when I say the number 5, you'll open your eyes, you'll be fully alert, fully wide awake and fully back in the room. So 1, just paying attention to my voice now. 2, your unconscious mind now stores every suggestion that I have made and every change that you have made. Place them into immediate, positive and permanent effect now. 3, your unconscious mind has now updated old programs that are no longer wanted or needed and has replaced them with something much more beneficial for your life going forwards. 4, feeling positive, calm, relaxed, energized, motivated and in control. These feelings getting stronger and stronger each and every day now. All feelings of heaviness and drowsiness leaving you completely as your eyes become fresh, clean and clear. And 5, eyes open, fully alert, fully wide awake, fully back in the room. Just give yourself some time to adjust, take some slow, deep breaths and gently stretch. Okay, so while I'm just allowing Matthew to come round, I'm just going to have a little bit of a chat with you about what I did. So in reality, there was loads of different things I could have done there, but I chose parts therapy. So that was talking to different parts of the mind, because we can often find out what those internal conflicts are. Because I know there's obviously a part of Matthew that wanted to make the changes, and this is why he agreed to do this today. But there was probably other parts of him that were resistant or running old patterns. And from there, I could then use whatever tools and techniques I needed. So I did some age regression, which was taking him back to a younger version of himself, finding out what went on, and then also doing some inner child work. Now, as that became apparent what had happened, it made me think that perhaps aversion therapy may not be needed, because the aversion is bringing a very strong reaction, but it's not necessarily dealing with what's gone on underneath. But because we dealt with what was going on underneath and the reasoning for that, we didn't really need that to the same extent. And that was clarified when obviously I asked his mind to think about those processed and sugary foods. He was already wanting to move away from them. So I just asked him to make that feeling stronger. So we noticed there's emotion involved. So quite often our behavioural patterns, our habits, the things we do in life are connected to our emotions. So I wanted to put those weight loss suggestions in for him so he's got a better relationship with the food. But we also need to look at why he was doing that as well. So looking at the emotions and how they could be done in a more effective way. So that's a little bit of an overview of what I've done. There's loads of different things you can do in therapy. And this is why I work in the way that I work, that it just depends what the person's mind comes forward with as to how I work with them. So I'll just go back to Matthew now. How are you doing? How did you find that experience?
Interesting.
Interesting in what way?
How horrible I am.
And that's not the case at all. We've all got facets of us that we like and maybe facets of us that we could perhaps do some work on. And that's okay, you've done that today and you should be really proud of yourself for that. So I think what we all need to do first is I think we need to give Matthew a big round of applause. I also think it's very brave doing something like this in front of an audience of people that you don't know. It's very personal and obviously you don't know what's going to come up. So before we finish off, has anybody got any questions for me? Yes.
So I've got a couple of issues. One is a fear of big dogs.
Okay.
And another is I'm a terrible passenger in a car.
Yes.
I find it really difficult. So here we've seen your demonstration with Matthew. So has that resolved his issue in one session? Could it be as simple as that for me?
So quite often with fears and phobias, they are quite often one session. Not always. Sometimes it can take 2 or 3, but they tend to be quite fast because what happens in the mind is at some point in our lives, for those types of situations, you'll have a strong emotion and there'll be some sort of stimulus, something you see, hear or feel. And for whatever reason, your brain connects the two. So every time you become aware of those things, like a big dog, your mind brings forward that emotion.
Yeah.
So all we need to do is basically disconnect the two things so that you're no longer feeling those emotions.
Yeah, I think about it a lot because it affects me. I've got a dog, but
Yep.
I've got a little dog, but I can't walk him on my own because I can't enjoy country walks. I'm constantly looking, is there a big dog?
Yeah.
Is it off lead? You know, that kind of thing. And I think, where on earth has this come from? And people have said to me before, oh, something must have happened, but nothing has happened. But even just yesterday, for example, we have a community group where I live on Facebook, and I'm forever reading posts that kind of feeds this angst in me. And I read one yesterday. Somebody had put, there's a 1-year-old German Shepherd. It has broken the fence trying to get to the other side to a little dog. And so I'm saying to my husband, there you are, you see, there's another one. And so the more stories I read, and there's so many in our area where we live, where I'm constantly reading about these dogs, and I guess that's just feeding my fear that I had before I was reading. But yeah.
So what happens at a more brain-based level, very, very simply, is we've got neurons, which are brain cells, and they create neural pathways, which are electrical circuits in your brain. And you'll have different electrical circuits for every single action and reaction that you have. And what happens is we see things, we hear things, we feel things in our environment, and our brain needs to decide, what am I going to do with that information? So it pattern matches. It finds one of those neural pathways, lights it up like a string of Christmas tree lights, and within about half a second, that thought travels about 50 metres in our brain, phenomenal speeds. But it means that we have that reaction before we can consciously process it. Now, the thing is, often that gets set up some point in our lives, and we may not even be consciously aware of when that pathway gets put in place. But every time you experience something similar, it gets stored along that pathway, gets bigger and stronger, and the more we keep going back to it. So my job basically is to find out what are those key things that are keeping that pattern in place, do something to neutralise them, and it basically breaks the circuit. And we know that if you break a circuit, it doesn't work anymore, but the brain's very, very clever. It rewires itself through neuroplasticity. So then we make sure that whatever new pathways we're laying down are going to be more beneficial. So my job is to take away the unhelpful and put something more beneficial in place. And there's lots of different ways to do that. So what I always say is, if somebody's interested in working with me, you come and have a chat with me. We have a consultation. I explain the different ways I work. So you've just seen a tiny fraction of that today. And then if you want to work with me, we book in a session and you go from there. So
I can see how it can be life-changing. I mean, it's so stressful for me being in the car. I've had to drive here today quite a way because the journey, I'd be clinging onto the door handle and there's not enough stopping distance and brake every few seconds. Do you know what I mean? It's horrible. Absolutely dreadful. So yes, it's interesting to see that. It's given me some confidence that there are things out there that might just be able to make things better for me.
I feel really privileged.
You've got 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, Maud. I feel very privileged with what I do because a lot of it is quite fast therapy, and I see miracles every day of the week. I see people coming in with all sorts of issues, and no therapy is guaranteed, no medication's guaranteed. Different people need different things, but done well, it's highly effective, and it tends to be quick and long-lasting. So it works very differently to talking-based therapy. So talking-based therapies are fantastic. I've recently been having some counselling. I've been going through some life changes, and I've needed somebody to talk to process the information, and that was right for me. This, however, works in a different way. It's almost like it brings up the programming, and we update the program, and then we store it in its new altered format. So it's working out more how the thoughts are being created and what we need to do to change them.
So, you know, I know it's irrational, but there's obviously something there. But yeah,
absolutely. But do you know what? Most of us have things.
Yeah.
Right, we've probably got time for one more question. So, yes.
I'm just wondering about bereavement therapy. If you've lost somebody special in your life, and you're finding lots of difficulty with it.
Yeah.
And also, not only that, you realise then that you could have done things better and you're feeling guilty. And the difficulty is releasing, I'm working on it at the moment, releasing your own guilt from that situation.
And that can be done very easily. There's lots of very effective tools of hypnosis and also eye movement therapy techniques where we work with the emotion, releasing it, because all emotions are there to teach us something. So once we understand the lesson, we don't need them anymore and we can let them go. But for some reason, our mind stays fixated on them. So there's lots of different tools that can release that, and then that helps with the bereavement process because you can perceive things in a different way. So yes, a lot of people do come for things like bereavement therapy.
Well, there is one little additive to that. I bought a car, a second-hand car. I've always been very lucky.
Yeah.
This time it broke down 4 times in succession over 4 days. So I thought, sod it, I'm going to walk for a couple of weeks and use my bus pass and all that. But I'm walking up the road, and my neighbour, who lived opposite me, drove up the road as I was crossing to the bus stop. Never looked. A witness said he was driving far too fast anyway. And he hit me, and I got very badly injured. I had 3 weeks in hospital, a fortnight in a care home. And I've got spiritual, I'm not religious, but I've got spiritual beliefs in the afterlife. So I'm now thinking of karma and dharma. In other words, am I accepting that as my punishment for being a bit of a prat in an early life.
Which, you know what it could be, and I do a lot of spiritual based work as well, so it's one of my specialisms, and also past life work, and things like that can also certainly be looked into using hypnotherapy to balance anything out that needs to be balanced and release anything that needs to be released. But thank you for sharing your story with me. Thank you. But I'm happy to chat to you more afterwards if you would like to. And that's the same with all of you. I will get us to vacate this room in a moment, so we're out before the next talk comes in. But if any of you do want to chat to me, take one of my cards, or I'm down at my stall. So I'm on the right-hand side when you come in, next to Crystal Carroll's stall. Please do come and have a chat with me. So thank you ever so much for your time.